Hey.
How you doing?
All right. How you doing? Yeah, no problem. The boom did move up, but it just was, I could tell it was just pushing right down on here as soon as you do that. What do you think about hooking it down there? You think this boom is strong? I think this boom is strong enough.
I'd rather not hook on the... I liked where we were hooked.
Yeah. It's just that when this comes up, I'm going to be right in the way. good 20 feet or more.
I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
I don't think we can use this thing.
Alright, so this is the final position that it's going to be in for a while I fix it. I wanted to put it like this so that the counterweight is not over top of the motor in case I need to pull it. Although I could have used it as a place to attach a hoist to, I was afraid that it might not leave enough room. I'm sure it'll still come out even if it was over, but I wanted to leave extra room just so it's not so cramped in there. Andrew thinks that it might be a bent connecting rod, and I'm leaning more towards something in the upper end, like a bent push rod or something with the valves or possibly even injectors. But when he flipped it over, it got oil back up into the cylinder, and he let it drain for a while, but I guess it wasn't enough, and it hydrolocked as he was starting it. He never actually got it started, it was just turning over from the starter. So it might still be saved. If it had started, it'd probably be toast for good. Then he definitely bent a bunch of stuff, but it never really turned over, so I don't think it's that. I'm not an expert on diesel engines, especially the lower ends, but I'm pretty sure that we can get this settled one way or another. And if I really need to, I'll put a new motor in it. So the next thing I want to do is just try to diagnose this as much as possible before I take things apart and can't run the motor. So I have 6 cylinders and I'm trying to find out which one is misfiring. So I want to see what the temperature difference is between them. So what I have here is made by FLIR, and it's a thermal imaging device. And this one plugs into your phone. These are really nice, they're really useful. This thing was only about $250. So you just take this and you plug it in your phone with the thermal imaging sensors on the back. And you turn it on, and you just let it calibrate. And so since I ran the motor a little while ago, it does have some heat in it, you can see. And you can also see that right there in the middle, it's a little bit warmer than everything else. See, that's like 88, 87 degrees. In the middle is a little brighter. It's like 97 degrees, 98 degrees, and then even behind that's even brighter, it's 116. So the colder it is, the darker it will be. And so we want to figure out which cylinders are hotter or colder than the others. Okay. So let's watch for certain cylinders to get hotter than the others. I'm pretty sure in the middle is going to be the hottest. That's because that's where all the cylinders are combining. That's what it appears to be doing right now as well. It appears that I think this cylinder right here, this one right there, a little bit colder, and this one is as well. You see how it's really starting to get bright over here, but not right there. So that cylinder definitely, and possibly this one. You can see that that cylinder is much hotter than this one, and I'm pretty sure that they're also hotter than this one right here. The intake side is not really going to show us much. Just want to check the valve springs and make sure none of them are broken. I don't have a whole lot of information on this motor. It is a white, and I think it's a D3400. That's what it says on there. There's a bunch of serial numbers, but I think a D3400 is the actual model number. I just don't know which cylinder is number 1. Basically, I need to figure that out, and then I can kind of figure out which ones should be in order from each other. So here's where I'm kind of at right now. I need to get into this oil pan, and I don't have a lot of clearance. I think the first thing I'm going to do is take this exhaust out, because that's just in the way. To take these oil pan bolts out, this exhaust is in my way. So I know I need to take it out anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and take it out now. I'll take the whole manifold off with the flex pipe down there, because it doesn't want to separate here for some reason. So on this side of the motor, I pretty much have free range the whole way to get all the oil pan bolts from the top here, and it's so much easier. Like, I can sit on a tire here and just do it, and it's like I'm not straining my body in any way. When you're underneath the crane, reaching up to get the bolts from the bottom is like such a strenuous task. So hopefully on the other side I can do the same kind of thing. On this side of the engine, I have pretty much full range, but the starter's in the way, so I'm going to take that out. Disconnect the battery first. So to get this starter out, there's a bolt on the bottom. It's really hard to get to, and it's kind of like recessed into the starter, so you can't get a socket on it, even with like extensions and swivels and stuff. So I guess I got to make a tool for that. So I just took an old wrench, and usually what I do is just take an old socket that's like an odd size. This is a 9mm. I never use a 9mm. And like 11mm is good. And I try to use Harbor Freight stuff. You know, this wrench is the Harbor Freight one. Just weld it together and kind of make sure that they're square with each other. You could also weld a nut onto this, that would work too, but this one will actually grasp the extension and stay on it, so I don't have to fiddle with that. Kind of annoying because you got to keep resetting the tool because you can't do a full circle with it. So now I have some pretty good access to all these oil pan bolts. That oil pan is not coming out of there without a fight. So I guess what I need to do is jack up the whole assembly. So there's some motor mounts right on the front there that are on the cross member that's preventing me from getting it out. Alright, now mine's free. I'm good. Can you just
Hold the big, huge, heavy thing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So that's all these coolant lines that have got to be disconnected.
Well, I just need to go up like an inch or two. So to jack this motor up so that I can get the oil pan off, I welded a bolt to this square stock. And what I'm going to do is twist it in. I'm going to thread it in a bolt hole that's in the bottom of the motor. And then this gives me a nice stable place to jack it from.
bearing.
So last night I got the oil pan off. It took so long to get this oil pan off because everything was in the way. And I ended up having to cut this little bracket that was here. I don't even know what it was for. It might have been for like holding down one of these hoses or something. I don't really know, but I had to cut it off. I did it with a Sawzall with a metal blade. And then I looked up in and I could not find any bent rods up in that block. I inspected it again today. Everything seems to be straight as an arrow. So I'm pretty sure that the problem is in the top of the motor now. I don't really know how well you can see up in there, but all 6 connecting rods appear to be perfectly straight. To get that oil pan out, I had to loosen up these motor mounts back here, loosen up the ones up here, and then I made this piece. And right up here, there's that bolt hole right there. And I just used that, you can kind of see it there. I used that to jack up the front of the motor. And I thought it would jack up the whole thing, but the more I jacked up the front, it just kind of pivoted in this spot here instead of picking it up. So there was no chance in getting that oil pan out until I actually jacked up the back separately, and then I just kind of held it there while I took it out. But the front, I put a bunch of shims in there. You can see I got it about 4 inches off of the frame rail there. So Andrew said that the front crank seal was bad, but what I figured out was it was actually this seal for the oil pan that was bad. You can see the evidence of the destruction here. It was just catching on the corner here, but see, it should be like uniform, but it wasn't. This thing was cocked to the side, and that was the problem. It should be like this. You can see how that's nice and smooth and consistent, whereas that was just kind of slammed in there. So whoever had this oil pan off the last time didn't put it back on right. I'm kind of curious of why they even took that oil pan off. Usually you wouldn't need to unless there's something major wrong with the motor, but maybe they did a rebuild. So now that I've eliminated kind of the bottom end being a problem, what I'm going to do is take these injectors out and test for compression, and I want to see which cylinders are different from the others. And the reason I should have done this before is because I still had the starter in, and I could have turned the motor over a lot easier and quicker like that. It's going to take a lot more turns, a lot more time doing it by hand. So instead of taking these injectors off individually, because these lines will still be in the way if I need to take the head off, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to, what I'm going to do is actually disconnect them from the injector pump, and I'm going to take this whole assembly out at once. That way everything is lined up where it needs to be, and it's out of the way to take the head out, because otherwise I need to bend them out of the way when I take the head out. So I'd rather not do that because they're kind of old and rusty. Bald eagle. That's it right there. So I'm trying to see how much compression each cylinder has, and I'm not getting any reading on any of the cylinders. So what I also did was put some compressed air inside of the cylinder to see where it's leaking. See, so I'm putting about 100 pounds in this cylinder and it's coming out of this cylinder. It's really just coming out of this cylinder. So something is crossing between those two cylinders and letting pressure out. So let me try a different one and see what that is. And also, the more you rotate the motor, the more it starts coming out of different places, which is normal, but eventually it should seal it up on the compression stroke. So let me switch this over to different cylinders and see what I can find out. That sounds like it's coming out of the bottom though. Okay, let's see the exhaust stroke on that. So this cylinder definitely does show different signs. It's not coming out of the port next to it. A lot of it's going down below. Okay, so that is holding pressure in there. Yeah, it's losing the pressure pretty quickly. It's gonna lose some pressure because the rings have that gap around them and the engine's not warm. So it will let some air pass by. But this is actually holding a lot better than the other cylinder was. Still got air in it right now. So I think this one actually, believe it or not, sounds like it's fine. Could be the head gasket, it could be some broken valves. We know it's not the push rods, we know it's not the connecting rods, but it could be a head gasket. So I think what we're facing here is these two cylinders, something's going on with them. So I think whatever's going to be in here is going to be pretty obvious. So I think we can be done testing for now. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this head off. In the manual it says if I don't see any damage to the head gasket, I can reuse it and the bolts for it too. So basically the only thing I have to do right now is disconnect this coolant line right here. I'm going to keep this intake manifold on here. I'm just going to take off the tube. And there's a temperature sensor here for the coolant, and there's another coolant line right here, and that's it. And then I can lift this out of here. Okay, so just as I suspected, there was a problem from one cylinder to another right here. So you can see that the head gasket's obviously busted. That coolant was just from me moving it around. So now the intake and the exhaust stroke are getting messed up because these cylinders aren't on the same stroke. So like when it's trying to exhaust on one cylinder, it's trying to intake on another or combust on another, and it crossfires. Alright, so I'm going to clean this head off. I'm going to check it to make sure it's flat. For parts for the motor, I just looked up the actual motor model number, which is a D3400, which is an old white motor, but it's kind of taken over by Hercules. It's harder to find parts for the actual machine, but they do exist. Pettibone is still in business today, but they don't really deal with these cranes anymore. I just want to make sure this fits before I even move this head. That looks pretty good to me. I was just curious whether you can switch this around. I don't think this matters which way you put it. Both ways seem to be exactly the same. No. So here's a torque sequence, and these are 9/16 head studs, so it gets 147 foot-pounds. 50 pounds to start, 100 pounds on the next turn, and then the final torque will be 147.
Stud. Another stud. This is like spot. There goes another. Okay.
Okay, now, hold on a second.
Okay. Let's make sure all these rocker arms are directly right where they gotta be. Okay. Good. Go down nice and slow. Line up all these hook rods on there.
Two. 3. 4. 5. 6. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 1, 2. So I got the oil pan all cleaned up, and if you can remember before, this gasket was on here, and you can see it's all messed up on the corner. It just went in crooked, and then it was leaking ever since then, and it would only leak when it was running. Got a new oil pan gasket. I really didn't need the rails, I just needed the one on the end here, but I got all of them, and it came with everything. So this is like a double seal, and it's got a adhesive on one side. I'll put it in there like that. Then you gotta seal up the corners. And I had to cut the corners too, because they came in like that. The old gasket that's still on the block was such a pain to get off, and I think I know why now, because they tell you to put it on there with shellac or equivalent. It's taken hours to peel that thing off. When you're installing a new head gasket or doing any kind of work to the head, you should check the clearance of the valves. This one is 17 thousandths when it's cold and 15 thousandths when it's warmed. But since we can't start it yet, we're going to start out with a cold and then readjust it when it's warm. Alright, so this one can be tightened up. Okay, that's good. Good there. Tighten up quite a bit. Alright, that's no more. More. That's good right there. That one needs some tightening.
See that one? That one moves a little easier. More?
Yeah. A little bit. That's good there. Alright. This one.
That one, right?
Yep.
More?
Yeah. Alright, tighten it up just a little bit. Alright. It's too much. Back a little bit. Alright, right there.
That one's gonna move quite a bit. That one's tight.
Alright, hold on. That's good there. Alright, that one. A little bit more. Just a little bit. Not too much. That's good.
And I'll just spin it so we can get that one.
Alright. So the whole reason that Andrew flipped this is because the brakes weren't working. So I already researched a couple things and I think it's going to be pretty easy to get the brakes working. Just need to bleed out the lines first.
Okay. That's good.
That's all I got.
There you go, all the way to the floor.
Okay. I need to hold this out of your way again.
Yep. There you go. Hang on. The seal got a little bit of oil on it.
That's fine. What are you hitting on?
Yeah, you're hitting on the bottom of this axle. It has to go in sideways.
Well, yeah, but let's, before we even do that, let's just jack this up because we definitely went down with it a lot.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Keep going. A couple more pumps, I think we should be able to have it. That might be enough right there.
That's about all you want to go on these lines up here. Ooh, that one's...
It's gonna go for maybe 2 more inches.
What the hell is getting on? Alright. All right, go ahead. Keep going. All right, hold on. We got air coming out of that one. All right, try it again. Hold on. I'm not getting any fuel out of this one.
Should I leave the fuel pump on?
Yeah, try it again. Alright. Pretty soon we should start getting some smoke here.
It's gonna be loud as a mofo.
Sounds smooth though. Alright, try it. Keep going. Alright, try it. I'm not getting any fuel out of this cylinder yet. Try it. There we go. There you go. It almost had it there.
Yeah.
I smell fuel too. Yeah. Turn it off.
I see sparks coming out.
Turn it off. All right, go ahead. Oh, it's just running like that randomly?
Yeah.
I thought you were revving it up when it was happening. It might just be the soot from those two cylinders that were not firing for so long. There was a lot of soot in them.
Could be.
You didn't clean the cylinders?
No, I'm talking about the exhaust ports. They were caked with soot in them. And now that those two cylinders are firing. Okay, so about 5 minutes after I started this up and started driving it around, we sprung a leak in the radiator. I didn't get that on video, but we took the radiator out and now we're going to bring it to a repair shop and get it fixed. So this is a radiator from the Pettibone and it's got some leaks in it, so I brought it into the radiator shop.
Gotta expose the leak. Cleaning and tinning at the same time. Preparing the metal to accept solder. That's how it's done. Nice, right?
Yeah,
Take it right back with you.
it's definitely it's cool. Now I can mess around this weekend with it. So if you're ever in upstate New York and you need some radiator repair, this guy's really good. I've been going to him for like 10 years now. A lot of this stuff on here is old repairs, and he said that wasn't really the best way to repair that, but it is what it is. So if you ever want to go to this place, here it is. They used to be called Captain Hooks. This guy can fix radiators no matter what they're from or how old they are. But I went in there with one leak and ended up having 3 or 4 leaks. But you can see he pressure tested it, so. Smokes a little bit, but it's not really that much. At first it was smoking quite a bit. So I know the rings are probably worn and the cylinders are definitely worn. They got some scratches on them, but I think this will do for now. If it starts right up, like with 2-3 revolutions, then it can't be too bad. And it starts up every time like that too. So it's got enough compression to start on a cold day. It's got enough compression to use it once in a while. Okay, so now that I know it's running pretty good, I want to get these brakes fixed, and I already started working on them. But what I need to do, this is a vacuum pump, and I need to put a new belt on it. The old belt wasn't tight enough to do anything at all. This pulley was just slipping the entire time and wasn't pulling over this vacuum pump at all. So the old belt was this old link belt style that's adjustable, and I was going to get another one, but I just couldn't find one quickly. So what I discovered is that was a 36-inch belt. So what I did is just get a 35-inch belt, and that way I can adjust it, because right now it's pretty much all the way adjusted out, so I can always adjust it in about 2 inches. So I should be somewhere in the middle, and I should be good. But in order to do that, I got to get this belt over that pulley, the crank pulley there, and that's got, and that crank pulley goes back here into this pump, and this is like the 2 main hydraulic pumps here, and that drives that. So there's no way to get a belt around that. Originally I thought I was going to get another link belt, so I didn't think it was a big deal. You just wrap it around and then button it up. But I didn't get one, so now I got to take this off. But it's only like 6 bolts, and then you can take the flange off and then just slip it in behind it. I'm gonna keep showing you guys the cold starts on this machine. Tell me what you guys think about how much oil it burns and stuff, because I can't really see it when I'm starting it up. Vacuum pump is spinning. Looks like it's pretty smooth. Doesn't look like it's out square or anything. So let's see if it's got some vacuum pressure. Oh yeah, you can hear it. I don't even have to put the gauge on it. A lot of vacuum pressure right there. So there's a check valve right here, and I broke it when I was trying to take it off. It's just a little flimsy plastic check valve. So right now I'm just going to put a coupling there, but it is important that you put a check valve there, because if the vacuum pump stops running, the oil will come out of there from the pressure of the, because it's hooked up to the oil to lubricate the pump. Something that I want to do before I run this motor too much is I want to put an intake on it, because the old one was just full of oil. So the brakes work. See, I'm rolling. Wait, let me get a little speed. Take it out of gear. Brakes. It's hard to really test it because I can't go fast with this thing, so it's hard to test the brakes. There's a pretty good hill right here. When I go up it and then I put it in neutral, it's going to roll backwards. It's pretty much the only way I have to test it here. Alright, so now I'm rolling backwards and brakes. Off the brakes, let off the brakes, When I took the radiator out, on the bottom is a separate compartment for transmission fluid for the transmission, and so when I put it back in, I checked the level and I added more fluid, but I didn't realize it was like a regular vehicle where you got to check it in neutral while it's running. So for a while I was having transmission problems where it wasn't really gripping. You would really have to rev it up to get anywhere. So then I thought of checking it while it's in neutral while it's running, like you normally would, and then I was very low on fluid. So I put like 5 quarts in there, and now it runs good. Now it moves. You can feel it's not slipping. So the last thing I want to do on this is get this crack taken care of. So I just put a V-groove in it. I'm going to pull this part of it out with my big excavator, and then I can get this side of it chamfered more. Definitely want to make sure I got some good penetration, and then I'll put a plate on top of it. I've had a lot of comments about what stick I use for welding, so this time I'm going to use a 7018 that's meant for AC machines. You want to, before you plug in the other one, you want to turn it off. Alright, so I got this all welded up and ground down, ready for this plate to go on. But before I do that, the crack ends right there, so I'm going to plasma cut a little hole there so that the crack doesn't continue. It's nothing pretty, but it does a trick. That just stops it from cracking any further than there. Alright, so that's good enough for now. I just need to cut this bottom off here. I just didn't feel like cutting it before I put it on there, but got a pretty nice weld here. That 7018 is a pretty good rod. I should have started using it a lot earlier. I only made one pass on the outside here. I figured that was kind of extra. The weld on the inside will hold it together, but this just gives it extra support. I don't really know what paint they used on this, but I got some cat yellow here. Let's see if that'll be close enough. Not really, but better than nothing. I just need it to protect it anyways. I don't care what it looks like. All right, so I'm finished fixing this for now. This is good enough to use for what I need. So as far as the brakes, pretty much this machine got in the position that it was because it didn't have brakes. Now, Andrew stalled the motor as he was going up the hill, so I'm not sure how much brakes he would even have, even if the brakes were working, because when the motor's off, the vacuum pump is off, and you only got a few seconds of brakes, and that's it. Bled everything out, and then I got the vacuum pump working, and then the booster did work. It does work. I don't know if it's completely 100%, but it seems like it works pretty good. I could either put an electric vacuum pump on it, or I could put an electric booster from like a medium duty truck that's got juice brakes. So I actually have an old truck that I could steal them off of. But for right now, I really don't see that I even need any extra brakes. That would just be so that if this stalls, I would still have brakes as long as I have power. Either one of those would do that. I'm getting very close to starting to build my house, so I need this crane to build my house. I'm not going to get into too much details about it, but just know that I can't do the job without this, and it's going to be used for several different things on that project. But the immediate use for this in the next few days actually is going to be for another machine that I bought that I need to do some work to. I need this crane to be able to do the work that I'm doing. So expect that in the next few videos, and I'll see you then.